So fine. So until now we have discussed hint, float, and boolean, which is either true or false, right? Now, as we have discussed something called a string. String is something called a collection of characters, basically. Okay, so it's till now we have dealt with numbers here. Now, what if I want to use something called a text? How do I represent this text? That's how there is a data type which have come into the picture called string. Now, where we can use this? We can use this string data type in anywhere you use. For example, the moment you go into any website, you see that there is something called username. Username is always written in the form of text, right? So in that case, you use string kind of data type, where you use password, for which you need certain characters to fulfill in it. True, for which you need string, right? So if you see in day-to-day life, wherever you go, you see everything in the form of strings. The moment you open websites and you see a lot much content which is written in the form of text. True. So for which you really require a data type called string. And we have also gone through how data type a string is represented. It is represented in between like the quotes, double quotes, or single quote, or if you want to write a very big length of code like text, then you would be using a triple quote, triple single quote, so that you can write a multiple lines of text. Okay. Now, there is also another way of writing a code where if you want to write something text which you want to convey. For example, if you have written a equal to 2, and you have written something called print a, and if someone who is new to this programming language, who doesn't know what exactly a print and all, what this line is executing, or what this line is trying to tell, basically developers, basically they convey what this line is going to perform through certain things called comment. Okay, the comments will be represented in the form of hash. Okay, when you write something like this and you put hash and you can write the text. That means you are telling the interpreter, whenever it sees this, the moment is it sees that hash, it's an indication that it's a comment which should not be executed. Clear? For example, let me show you this. Okay, for example, uh, a equal to 2, and I want to print this a, and there is some new programmer who have come. For example, okay, I'm telling you as an example, and who doesn't know what exactly this line is going to execute, for which I write a comment stating that this is going to display the output. Okay, the moment you highlight it, you can see that this was highlighted in a green color. True. It's an indication that it's a comment. You are telling the interpreter, the moment it comes in the interpreter, as soon as it sees print, and it will see what I need to execute, and it will see a, and it will print 2. And the moment it sees this, the hash sign, it's an indication for the interpreter that it's a comment which should not be executed. Fine. Clear? Now, as now we can also write a, as we are right now dealing something called string, right? So string, which is a data type, okay, which I want to discuss. And we can like we can write a string, we can represent a string in single quotes or double quotes, or so where you can write a multiple text. Okay, where you can write a multiple text. Okay, multiple lines of text. It's an indication that the moment it sees that this is a line where it is a comment type of thing, where the interpreter will not execute these lines. Clear? Now now there is a scenario where you have to club two or more sentences. For example, you see that your first name is Abhyaka, and your last name is your last name And your last name is, and your last name is Academy. Okay. And what if I tell you that I want you to combine this? Okay, how can you combine this? For which you basically concatenate these two strings. Basically you can combine two or more strings using a symbol called plus. It's an indication that you can concatenate. That means you can add two or more strings using a symbol called plus. Clear? For example, if I execute this, okay, if I execute this, what result that you can expect? So first name is Abhyaka and the last name is Academy. And what I'm writing here, I'm calling a function called print. What does this function will do? This function is going to execute whatever the thing which is there in this bracket, right? True. So what I have here, first name. The first name is Abhyaka plus. That means you are concatenating. You are adding two or more strings using a symbol called plus, and for which you have added a last name, right? Academy to it. Now what could be the result that you can see here? Let's see. You see that this first name and the last name was added. Since this text is not clear, what I would like to do, I would like to add something called space in between. How can you add a space? Space is also a character in a programming language. True. So for which you add something called space. Space is also character. Character should be represented in something called quotes, right? Either it can be single quote or a double quote. True. And you would like to add this code. How can you add this space by adding plus? And if you execute this and you see that result, and you have added space, right? That means what you have done using concatenation operator, like the addition, you can add two or more strings, right? Now what if I tell you, I would like to, for example, my name is Abhyaka. Okay, see, the moment you write like this, it shows something called an error, which is in red color, right? That means what? It's an indication that the interpreter no, it is not knowing what exactly it is. So you want to represent it as a string, so you have to put it in quotes. Clear? Now now the age of the Abhyaka academics, let us assume it's something called 5. Clear? Now if I would like to print, okay, hi, what is the name? Hi. And if you see, now if you see, I would like to display your name and the age of this, right? Hi, name, and you are dash years old. True. Okay, this is what age, right? Now if you see, can I, what's wrong in this code? If you see what I have done here, I would like to execute this in such a way that hi, so on, so name, and you are dash years old, right? For which what I have done, I have converted this age into something called string. This is called type conversion. That means you are converting whatever the thing which is there here, it is going to convert into something called string. Why we need to convert this into something called string? Because you cannot add a number with a string. What I'm trying to tell through this example is this: when you try to you can basically add two or more strings but not a number. That's the reason when you try to take off this string over here, you see that there is an error symbol. See, you can see that there is an error over here, right? So in that case, what exactly you need to do, if you want to add some more, like two or more strings, then you have to convert everything into something called string. True. This is called type conversion, where you convert from one data type into another form. Okay, how you can do that? You can, for example, if I would like to make it something called hint, since it is an hint, let's do this something called it's float. Yeah, I can do that. Okay, this age can be converted into something called float. But if you really want something called to be a string, you use this. And if you see the output, see, hi Abhyaka, you are 5 years old. Clear? So that means what? You can concatenate, strings, but you can't concatenate string with some other data type. Clear? Understood? Now, if you see, this is what strings, and what if you would like to add more or two or more strings, then you can do using a string concatenation operator called string. Fine. Now now there is a scenario where there is one beautiful concept called escape sequence. Okay. Oops, sorry. There is thing called escape sequence. Okay. What is this escape sequence in string? For example, there is something called a string which I would like to execute. Okay, it says that, hi, hello, hi, is everything fine? Is everything okay? Now I would like to execute this. I would like to display this. How can I do that? There's something called print. Using print, I can display this. True. Using print, I can display this. Using string, using print function, I can basically execute this. Now, if I execute this, what exactly happens? It shows me something called hi, hello, how are you? Now, what if I say, I want to highlight certain part of the text? How can I do that? For example, I want to highlight something called how are you in this. Okay. For example, how can I do that? Now, if I would like to highlight some part of this, how can I do this? I can do this in a different way. What can I do? Instead of me putting everything into something called double quotes, I put it something called single quote, and if I would like to highlight this, I highlight like this. And if I execute this, you see, a main part of this where I would like to highlight has been highlighted in between two quotes. Clear? That means you can use single quotes and double quotes in this way. Now, what if I would like to add some spaces, okay, in the text? For example, there is a scenario where I don't want to use single quote. I still want to use double quotes on the both end. Okay, and I still want to highlight this. How can I do that? How can I do that? There's something called slash. This slash is going to tell whatever the moment I type this, the interpreter, whenever it sees start executing this, it sees that whatever the thing which is there after this, I'm going to treat it as a text. Okay. for which I'm going to execute it. Instead of me throwing an error, I understood what exactly it is. So for which I can go and see whatever the thing which I see after this slash, I treat it as a text. And if you execute this, you see still this works. Clear? Instead of me putting this slash, and if I execute this, you see that there is an error. That means what? The moment I see, the interpreter sees this, it saw something called the first double quote, and whatever the thing which was there in between, I'm going to execute as it is. The moment it sees this, it is going to stop. But the moment see, you see that there is an highlight, a red color which was highlighted. It means that interpreter is not going to know what exactly it is. Interpreter is telling me, I'm not sure what exactly it is, right? In order to tell that even this is also a text and I'm highlighting this in something called double quotes, how can I tell that interpreter that this is also a text? And in that case, you add something called slash. The moment it sees slash, and it tells, we are going to tell the interpreter, the moment you see this and whatever you see after this is also a text. Again, now what happened? Now the interpreter started reading this. It saw that there is something which I need to display, right? I need to display because you called me something called you called a function called print. Print is going to display. Okay, what I need to display? I need to display something this. The moment it says this double quote, it's an indication that interpreter should display whatever the thing which is there in between double quotes. The moment it starts displaying this, when it comes here, yeah, you are going to tell the interpreter, whatever whenever you see this, whatever the thing which is there after this slash, you're going to display, because I'm going to inform you that this is also a text. The moment it comes here and it sees something called code, right? And interpreter tells that, I'm going to display whatever the thing which you have written till here. But as per our functionality, we are going to highlight this, right? We are also supposed to display this one as well, right? Now how can I tell that this is also a text bulk? For which you also add something called slash here, telling that interpreter, hello interpreter, the moment you see this and whatever you see after this is also text. And that's how you are going to display the whole text with an highlighted one. Clear? You understood? Now I would like to display, instead of me putting this, you know multiple dots, I want something called a space between two or more sentences. How can I do that?
Double quotes.
Now there is something, okay, as you said, you want double quotes and you provide lot much spaces and do that. Now what if I tell you I want 100 character spaces, like space character in between? How we do that? It becomes very tough, right? You need to type everything like, you know 8 times, like every time 100 times is not at all possible. For which what you need to do, there is a functionality called, there is a way that you can represent it. You tell that the interpreter, okay, this way, something like this, using slash, this using this function, okay, you are going to tell that there is something called, I'm going to provide you 8 spaces between the two sentences. Clear? That means what? Slash t is something, a functionality which is going to provide, eight space character space in between two texts. For example, if I execute this, you might understand. See, you see that there is something called 8 spaces in between. Clear? You understood? Now what if I don't want you to print something called everything in one line. I want something you want to print on a different line. I want this everything something called is everything okay in the next line. How can you do that? There is a functional, like there is a way that you are supposed to do. There is something called slash n. Slash n, the moment it sees this, okay, the interpreter, the moment it sees this, the interpreter will go to the next line and it starts displaying. You want to check? Let's see. See, you see, that means what? You can literally play with strings. You can do whatever you want to. You can execute the way that you want to. If you want, you want to some 8 spaces or more, you double tap, slash t, and it is going to provide 16 spaces in between. Clear? You understood? Now this is how you can play with strings. And now there is a scenario where, okay, there is a scenario where you might be seeing this. Your password should be some certain character length. True? The moment you see or login page of any website or some other website, there are few websites where they want to provide something called more security concerns. When it comes to more security concerns, they would like to provide, they tell you that you should provide your password in something called uppercase, lower letters, alpha characters, alphanumerical characters, whatever, and the length have to be something called a minimum 15 characters, right? Now how can I know that, you might be writing 100 lines of text. For example, there is a chance where your website has to create something called an about page. The moment you go to any website, you see that there is something called about. About is going to describe their motive, why they have started the business and all. And in that you might see some text over there. True? So in which there is a chance where you have to write only particular characters of, particular length of this, that means 250 characters that you can only display over in this uh, category or in this particular page. Then how can, the moment you started writing and all, you don't know how many characters that you have written. True? And it asked you to display only 250 characters. And how you are going to how can you come to know that the string has certain amount of characters? For which, let's do something called, let's call something function. Let's assume that the length okay. Now I would like to know the length of this, how many characters are there in the string. For which you basically call a function which is nothing but length of, or let me make it, okay. Is there anything wrong? Yeah, fine. So it displays me how many characters are there in this string. Did you understand? So that's how you will come to know how many characters that you have written in that particular paragraph. Clear? Why is this useful? You will come to know in later stages. So for which what we have called. See, the thing is, you have called two different functions here. What is that function? Basically, function in general. What do you mean by function? Function is something which is going to perform an action on a data type. Function is something which is going to perform on behalf of you, right? Function is basically tells that to perform certain action. True? The name itself function bole to kya, like the name itself it says that you need to perform certain action. What kind of action is this? You are calculating how many characters are there in this. So you are calling two different functions over here. One is nothing but length, and the other thing is nothing but print. So print is going to display, and the length is going to count the characters which you have written, count the number of characters which you have written. Now, let's understand how this is going now, how this is executed. The moment you have written something called in text, which is nothing but characters, in the next line, the moment it sees, the interpreter goes here and it will start line as interpreter something which goes line by line. The moment it sees third line, print. Okay, you told me something to print. What to print? Okay, it will see the first bracket where it has opened, and it is going to display whatever the thing which is there in these two brackets. And you see that there is a function which is already called here, which is nothing but length. Length is something which basically defines the size or the object, the length of the characters, or how many characters which are written. So it is going to see, okay, you called something called length. Okay, for what do I need to? For what I need to, you know, for what I need to count the characters. So it is going to see this string. So you see the moment it sees this, it is going to go and count each and every character which is there here, and it counts and it gives you the length of this particular string. Clear? Any doubts in this? No? Or else simply you can also do this. For example, print, and I would like to find out the length of this particular string. What is that string? Hello? And if you see this, it gives me how many characters are there. See, there are 9 characters in this particular string. Do you understand? Clear? Now, hope you have gone through something called escape sequences. What are the escape sequences? Escape sequences are nothing but the slash, and there is something called slash, there is something called slash t, and there is something called slash n. Clear? No. Slash is going to tell that interpreter whatever the thing which is there after slash, you need to consider it as a string. And slash t is going to provide 8 spaces between two characters, and slash n is going to tell the interpreter move to the next line. Clear? Understood? Any doubts in this? Now let's see that if you want to display your name. Let's take this is Abhi, and Abhi has certain age. Okay, and the age is something called 27. Okay, now this age, and I would like to greet this person. For example, the moment you get into some websites, these websites will tell you welcome, hi, welcome, welcome to so and so company. They basically XYZ company, they basically greet, right? For example, if I would like to display this, hi, and you see that you know hi, and the name is this, welcome to our website, and hope now this website is going to check whether you are 18 years old or not. Hope you are hope you are clear. Now this is what a thing where the moment you get into a website and you see such kind of welcome note. Hi, Abhi, welcome to our website. Hope you are 27 years old. Now, your website has more than thousand of people who are hitting your website. Now for which you can't write something called every time you can't write the name and age, and you are not going to display everything, right? For example, 1,000 people have come. Although for 1,000 people you are not going to write everything like this, right? For example, thereafter tomorrow Rishika have come with her name and she has given an input with her age, and every time I can't write a code where, hi Rishika, welcome to our website, hope you are so and so age bolke, right? No, I can't write like this for multiple users. For which, right, you need to write something, a code where I will write the code only once, but I'm going to call your name, your age with one written code. That means you will write the code in one go, but I'm going to execute whatever the name that you are going to provide, or whatever the name age that you are going to provide. That means if you have to build a dynamic websites, that means what? Dynamic is something which is going to adopt as per the environment, like as per the situation. Because today the Abhi's profile is going to be deleted, and thereafter tomorrow someone will come, right? I can't use the same code to, to greet Rishika or Nikhil, whenever they welcome, like, whenever they hit my website. True. For which there is a way that you have to write the code. Okay. For which we call it something called formatted string. Use something called a concept called use something concept called formatted strings. What is this formatted strings? Using formatted strings, basically you can create a dynamic pages. That means what? Okay, instead of me writing like this, I write, okay, like this. Okay, hi. Now what I have written here, the moment I have written in this way, it is going to get the data from the databases. Okay, I write this code only once, and these names, for example, whenever you come hit my website, you enter your profile details, and the moment you create login or create, it is going to greet you with this format. Okay, what exactly it is saying? Now if you see that print, and the moment it says print, you're you're supposed to display something. Okay, what I'm supposed to display? The moment it sees that f, it's an indication that you are telling the interpreter this is a formatted string, for which hi, and there is a something called you have written this way, because in future this name is going to be some other something called Rishika. Okay, and instead of displaying Abhi, it is going to display something called Rishi. You understand now? Now this name has been updated with something called Rishi instead of Abhi. And if you see, and if you write this, if you execute this, you see something called hi Rishi, you are 27 years old. And you have mistakenly written something called this is 27. Let's put something called this is 50. And you see, it got dynamically updated. You understood? This is where you can create a multiple, or I can tell you, instead of creating a static page, that means instead of you writing code for thousands of users, you can just simply write one code for which you can add multiple users, stating that any number any number of guests that who eats my website, i'm right I'm going to wish them with a single line of code. Did you understand? Did you go through? This is going to create a dynamic page. Now hope you understood that this is what a formatted string. If you don't put that something called a for f, at the beginning of the string, the interpreter will never understand that it is a formatted string where I need to get my data from the databases. So when you put that f in the beginning, you are telling the interpreter get the data from the databases which is there, and that's how under in the data in the database you see something called a name table. Under name table you see something called Rishi, and it is going to pull out all the information which is there. And it says that even if you want like to add something called a gender, okay, gender equal to female that you have entered, and you can still write that, you know make like this. Kadam, you are done. See, hi Rishi, you are 50 years old and I'm female. Clear? Now, this is what the formatted string can help you out. Formatted strings basically pulls the data from the databases, and that's how you can create multiple users in one go. Hope I am clear with this formatted strings. Any doubts in this? Okay. Now, I would like to discuss something called a main functionality called slicing. Okay. What is this slicing? On which you can perform? You can something called string slicing. That means what? The name itself it says you are slicing it. You are making string into pieces. Right? For example, there is a string called name. Okay. What is that string? It's abhyaka. Okay. And you want to you want to print something called a part of this particular string. Okay. For which there is something called concept called string slicing. Okay. What is this string slicing is all about? This string slicing tells that, okay, from where do I need to start and where should I stop? Okay, where should I start and where should I stop? That means you need to give a number. That means what? That means what? These are strings basically. Strings are nothing but ordered. That means what? The moment you store a string in a particular variable, it is going to store each and every character in the memory next to each other. That means what? That means what? I will tell you. I will tell you. Okay. In the memory, what exactly happens is this. Okay. Whenever you try to store something, a string in a particular a variable, nothing but name, the name, you see something called abhyaka. And what exactly it is going to happen in the memory? In the memory, each and every character is stored next to each other. Okay, for example, let's have this address of this is 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 and so on. This is going to store next to each other, abhyaka. And you can if you want to call a part of this string, you can call it. How you can call it? You can call like this. For example, if I want to check whether you know this, what is the fifth character in this particular string? Okay, how can I call that? You can call something called like this. Let's do this. What is the third character in this particular string? And if I run this code, see, The third character of this particular string is h. That means what? The first thing it sees that the moment it sees that this is a string, this is a space is also a character. So for that it is given 0, and the next a is 1, next b is 2, and the next 3 is h. So it is going to pull out that value. Now what if I tell that there is something called 10? What is the 10th character in this particular string? Can you expect what could be the result? What could be the answer for this? Let's run this code and see what exactly it is going to display. See, it says that the string index is out of range. That means what? In a string there is something called indexes through which you can call a particular character. So each and every character will be stored in the memory, and each and every character will be stored next to each other, and each and every memory has an index value. Using that index value you can call whatever the character which was there in this particular string. Clear? Any doubts? But I would like to discuss about string slicing tomorrow. Okay, because string slicing is something a bigger concept where you have to deal a lot many things in string slicing. But as of now, you got to know what is a string, whether you can add two or more strings, and if you would like to add spaces, or if you would like to highlight a string, you can do that using slash. If you would like to add spaces, yes, you can do that. If you would like to add no display in the next line, yes, you can do that through slash n. And if you would like to call a particular character in which for which you call something called index, using index value you can check whether a particular character is there or not, right? This way. Okay, for example, if I would like to see what is the fifth character in this, and if you execute it is going to check the what is the fifth character, which is nothing but a. How it is happened? Like the moment it sees this is space is 0, like a 1, b 2, h 3, y 4, and a 5. See, it displayed, right? Now this is how and this is how string indexing is done. Clear? Any doubts in this?
No, no.